Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another biology lesson. Today, let's review Unit 4, the Hydrosphere. We will see in this lesson what is the hydrosphere, some properties of water that make it a very special substance. Also, we will see the importance of water for living things and the water cycle, that is a process in nature that is very, very important. So let's begin. Hydrosphere. We have seen already that we can divide the Earth into four systems. These systems are the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, biosphere, and geosphere. We have seen already the geosphere, the atmosphere, and now we will see the hydrosphere. What is the hydrosphere? Hydrosphere is all the water on the Earth. And this water, it can be in three states. It can be solid, liquid, and gas. We can find that water under the surface, above the surface, or on the surface. Nosotros podemos, la hidrosfera es el conjunto de todas las aguas del planeta, puede estar en los tres estados, líquido, sólido, gaseoso, y podemos encontrar ese agua en la superficie, podemos encontrarla debajo de la superficie o por encima de la superficie. What's the origin of the hydrosphere? Well, we have to go back to the early days of the planet, about 4.5 billion years ago, and at that moment the Earth was like a big ball of fire. Well, not fire, but melt rock, right? La Tierra hace 4.500 millones de años estaba fundida, so it was very hot, and as you know, the denser substances were attracted to the center of the Earth, and the lighter substances went to the outer parts of the planet. These light substances were, for example, gases. So through volcanic eruptions, these gases escape to create or to form the atmosphere, the early atmosphere, la primera atmósfera terrestre, that had water vapor because the temperature, it was higher than 100 degrees Celsius. La temperatura del planeta era muy alta y el agua escapaba a la atmósfera por estas erupciones, pero en forma de gas, porque estaba muy caliente. With time, the temperature of the planet went down, and when the temperature went below 100 degrees Celsius, then we could find the first liquid water. Cuando la temperatura descendió por debajo de 100 grados centígrados, encontramos agua en estado líquido. That transformation from water vapor to liquid is called condensation, right? So these tiny drops of water fell down to the surface as rain, and the first lakes, rivers, seas, oceans appeared in the planet. With time, about 3 0.5 billion years ago, the first photosynthetic organisms appeared in the planet. And that was very important because they took CO2 from the atmosphere and produced oxygen. And that reduced the greenhouse effect and also produce the ozone layer. So that helped the temperature to went even down, and now we can see water in the three states. We can see water as vapor, water as liquid, and water as ice, solid. Right. The surface of the Earth is the most part of the surface is covered with water. About 70% of the surface of the planet is water, and just 30% of the surface is land. That gives the planet Earth, that blue color that is so characteristic and unique in the solar system, and is the only planet that we know with liquid water. Well, we can think about Mars, but we found some very, very little amount of water between clays and minerals, and it's not the same. Probably in the past, Mars had water, but now it hasn't. Water is very important because it's the basis of life. So if you see in the news that scientists are discovering new planets, one of the first things that they try to find is water, because if a planet has not water, that means that there's no life. Okay, we cannot think in life without liquid water. So that's one of the reasons why water is so important. We've seen this already. One of the first things that we have to learn is that we can separate water in two types. We have salty water and fresh water. Salty water is the water on the oceans, in the oceans and seas, and some salty lakes. This water is characterized because it has about 35 grams of salt per liter. Fresh water, el agua dulce, it has some salt, but the amount is it has less salt than in the ocean, but it has some salts. You can find it as snow, you can find it underground, in rivers, lakes, right? So the salty water is the most abundant. Is 97% of the water in the planet is salty water, and just the 3% is fresh water. Yes, this is salty water, 35 grams per liter. Also, it contains some gases, salt, oxygen, for example, that the fish take this oxygen solved in the water to breathe. And the temperature changed a lot, okay, from 25 degrees Celsius in tropical areas and close to the surface to -2 degrees Celsius in very deep, okay? But at this depth, the water is still liquid. Something very strange. Where does all the salt of the ocean come from? ¿De dónde viene toda esa sal de los océanos? Well, the salt from the ocean comes from the continents. continents, land, the surface is covered by minerals and rocks, as we know, and rain, wind, and so on take or solve some particles, some minerals and pieces of rock that they are transported by rivers. So this fresh water in the rivers contains some salt, okay? This salt is deposited in the ocean, okay? All the rivers coming from the continent leave some salt in the ocean and it accumulates the salt. Also, it helps the evaporation. When water from the ocean evaporates, the salt still in the ocean. Cuando se evapora, eso ayuda a que se aumente la cantidad de sal, porque cuando se evapora el agua, la sal queda. Entonces, va llegando sal continuamente de los ríos que lo han disuelto la sal de los continentes, de las rocas y minerales, y se va acumulando en los océanos. The water on the continents is usually fresh water. And the thing with fresh water is that it has salt, but the amount of salt is lower. We can find fresh water as ice in glaciers, at the poles. As groundwater es el agua subterránea, como en las cuevas, bajo la tierra. Hay verdaderos ríos y acumulaciones de agua subterránea. Also, we have water at the surface, like lakes, rivers, and so on. And we can find water in the atmosphere as vapor, and also we can find water in living things. You know that the most part of our body is water, and the same is for plants and other living things. So let's see the proportions. Let's see the distribution of water in the atmosphere. We have seen that 97% is salt water. The rest, 3%, is fresh water. This 3%, the most part of the fresh water, 79%, is ice, is solid. And you can find it in glaciers and at the poles. Also, 20% is groundwater. And the 1% of this 3%, which is very little, this 1% is surface water. And you can find this surface water as rivers, lakes, atmospheres, and living things. So when we think in water, sometimes we think in rivers, lakes, and so on. But we have to think that is a tiny part of all the water in the planet. Let's see the properties of water that make this substance a very special one. Here I will let you at the description link to a video that explains the properties of water. I think it's a little bit complicated, but you can use the subtitles and you can follow the explanation. It's a very good video. Okay, what are these properties? The first one is a powerful solvent. That means that it can solve minerals and transport these minerals in the water and by rivers, for example, or transport substances inside the body of living things. The next property is that absorbs heat. That means that to warm up water, we need more energy to warm up the water than the energy that we need for other substances. And that can be translated in two main things. It moderates the climate. Okay, so the areas close to the sea, the range of temperature in those areas is narrower, is shorter. And if we are far from the ocean, the temperatures during the year change a lot. El agua del mar, como tiene esta propiedad de absorber calor, regula, suaviza las temperaturas, y las zonas que están próximas al mar tienen temperaturas suaves, no muy extremas. En Salou ni hace 2 grados bajo cero, ni hace 45 grados en verano. Cuando estamos dentro del continente, lejos del océano, las temperaturas a lo largo del año son mucho mayores, las variaciones. And also, it regulates the temperature by sweating. Okay, this is another function that is important for living things. Third property, anomalous expansion. The density of water changes with temperature in a very special manner, different from other substances. First example, the solid occupy more volume than the liquid. And the example is, if we fill this bottle with water and we put it in the fridge, in the freezer, it becomes solid, and the space of the solid water, of the same solid water, is larger than the liquid. So that's the reason why some cans can explode into the freezer. El sólido ocupa más que el líquido. This is an example in nature. This rock was broken by ice because the water coming from the rain entered into a crack, and during the winter, this water inside the crack it's frozen, and it expands and break the crack, ¿no? La lluvia entra por la grieta, se congela, ocupa más volumen el hielo, y eso hace que no quepa en la grieta y rompa la roca a través de la grieta. The other consequence of this property is that ice floats on water. That's very important because without this property, imagine that we have a lake, and it's winter, the temperature is very cold, below 0 degrees Celsius, and the ice doesn't float. What will happen? That if this ice doesn't float, it will sink to the bottom of the lake. And then a next layer of ice occupy the bottom, and so on. So at the end, we will find that the whole lake, it will be frozen. However, because of this property, the ice floats, and this layer of ice protects the rest of the water from this from the cold of the exterior, and keep it liquid. And that allows all of these living things like fishes to live inside the lake and survive the winter. Okay, the last property is a more complicated one, but I think it's important. It's like a combination of two properties, cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion of water means that water is attracted to water. So this is a molecule of water, H2O, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. So cohesion help or is a force that tend to keep the molecules of water joined together. This would be an example, no? One drop falls and the rest are attached to the to the first one. That will be like an visual example of this. Adhesion is a force that attract water to surface. Okay, so these molecules of water, they are bind together, están unidas por la cohesión y se unen a las superficies por adhesión. And that produce that water get things wet. Eso hace que el agua moje las cosas y no se escurran. Por eso se empapan y se llenan de agua la ropa, etcétera, porque se agarra el agua a las superficies. The combination of these properties allows substances to be transported in plants and the body. So this is a plant, these are the roots, and this is the leaf. So water with salt is taken by the roots, but it needs to be transported to the rest of the plant. How can be this carried out? So the water try to, because of adhesion, well, first of all, there's a phenomenon which is called Evapo Transpiration. That is the exceed of water passed to the atmosphere. So if there's water going to the atmosphere, there's a gap without water that try to be filled with the next molecule because they are attached. Si una molécula de agua escapa, como está agarrada al resto, hace que esa suba y la siguiente tira de la siguiente, tira de la siguiente. And water try to climb, through capillaries, through little tubes. Try to climb because of adhesion. Okay. Gracias a la adhesión tiende a agarrarse a las superficies y tiende a escalar. So the combination of these mechanisms help plants to transport water from the bottom to the top. Water is very important for all living things. Human beings are, we are mainly made by water, okay, 65%. A lot of body fluids like blood, saliva, digestive juices, organs, they are made by water. In living things, water is very important because it's a medium for chemical reactions. Also, it distributes substances in the body because it can solve, it's a good solvent, it can solve a lot of substances, minerals, and so on, and they can be transported by the bloodstream or regulation of the body temperature, as we have seen by sweat, for example. Also, it warms our body like a system of heater system, and it can eliminate substances. Let's move on and see what is the water cycle. In nature, water is always moving. And this movement, it's always moving in a cycle, okay? It repeats again and again the same movements. And this cycle is the motor of the cycle is two forces: gravity and sunlight or sun energy. These two are the motor of the cycle that keep water moving all the time. So some of you mix the changes in physical state of water, okay, condensation, evaporation, with the water cycle. And the water cycle is a little bit more complex. There are more processes involved in the water cycle, and not all of them, not all of the movements implied a change in the physical state. El ciclo del agua son una serie de movimientos, de procesos, pero que no todos conllevan un cambio de estado. Let's see what are all of these processes, and let's talk a little bit about all of them. So I usually start explaining the water cycle with precipitation. Precipitation, when water, clouds are tiny drops of water in the atmosphere. When the temperature goes down and these drops of water are too big, then goes down. They go down as rain, snow. So this precipitation touch the surface, and then water can move into different ways. First way is to run over the surface, and that is called surface runoff. Surface water move across the land and forms rivers and streams. El agua, una vez que llega a la superficie, puede llevar dos caminos. Uno es la escorrentía superficial, surface runoff, que son, pues, por ejemplo, los ríos o los arroyos. The second way is infiltration. Part of the water coming from the precipitation goes inside the earth, goes inside the ground. And that process is called infiltration, okay? I usually use these arrows like water entering inside into the ground. Infiltration. And this water in the ground, it also moves down because of gravity, the same like the surface runoff, but beneath the surface. El agua que se infiltra puede ir moviéndose o va moviéndose por gravedad hacia zonas más bajas, and this water flow is called subsurface flow. Este flujo de agua se le llama flujo de agua subterránea o escorrentía subterránea. Good. So both streams of water, estas dos corrientes de agua superficial y subterránea, they reach the ocean or the sea. This water in the ocean goes up to the atmosphere by a process called evaporation. Okay, here we have groundwater, then here we have precipitation, infiltration, surface runoff, evaporation. Evaporation is the process by which the liquid water in the ocean, goes to the atmosphere as a vapor. So here we have a change in the state of water. When the temperature in the atmosphere goes down, it cannot take too much vapor, and then the process is called condensation, which is the change of water from vapor to liquid. Tiny drops of water that they are floating in the atmosphere, and they form the clouds. Las nubes son pequeñas gotas de agua que están en suspensión, que están flotando en la atmósfera, y el paso de vapor a condensación, o sea, del paso de vapor a líquido, se llama condensación. Good. So, as we've seen already, when the temperature goes down, these drops of water becomes too big to float and then fall down. as precipitation. So we close the cycle. We need gravity for the first part, and for the evaporation we need solar energy to keep the cycle moving. There's another process that is very important and we cannot forget, which is Evapo Transpiration. Evapo Transpiration. Living things lose water by forced evaporation, by sweat, by breathing. Plants also can exchange gases with the atmosphere. All of this process release water from the living things to the atmosphere as a vapor, as a gas. Los seres vivos, mediante la respiración, fotosíntesis, mediante el sudor, liberan líquidos que pasan, liberan agua que pasa a la atmósfera en forma de vapor. Y eso se llama evapotranspiración. So that's why it's important when we draw the water cycle to draw some trees to represent the evapotranspiration. Good. So this is the water cycle. Here I give you a link to another video which is very good, talking about the water cycle. These are the changes in physical state of water. From liquid to gas we have vaporization, or the gas from liquid is condensation, liquid to solid is melting, and solid to liquid is melting, and liquid to solid is freezing. Now, to finish the unit, we are going to see the uses of water. Water is a very important substance. As we seen, water is essential for life. All living things need water. And thinking in human beings, we need water to drink, to wash the dishes, right? To wash our clothes, to wash ourselves. We need water for cooking, and so on. So in our houses we need water. This is called usually domestic water. But also we need water for agriculture, for food production, for agriculture and farming in general. Necesitamos agua para regar los campos y dar de beber al ganado. Also, we need water for other uses, like industrial uses. Para fabricar las fábricas necesitan agua. And we need also water for nature. Let's see some of these uses. Agriculture is a very important one. We spend a lot of water in agriculture. Also, we can use water for producing energy. There are some power plants that they are run by water. Then we have what else? Industry, we have seen that. Also, we have recreation, sport, entertainment. We want water with quality to sail, but also fishing. What else? Swimming. All water sports are very important for us. Queremos el agua para pasarlo bien, para bañarnos, para hacer deporte en el agua, para dar un paseo en barca, para... El agua es importante para nosotros para disfrutar. And also to keep the ecosystems and the biodiversity, the wildlife habitats. They need water. This is basically the same. Also, another important use is the public use. We need water to keep our gardens, parks, also fountains. There are a lot of also firefighting, pools. So water also has a aesthetic value. El agua tiene un valor estético. Nos gusta que haya parques, jardines con fuentes porque son bonitas. That inspire us. Water is beautiful, aesthetically pleasant. ¿No? Es agradable estéticamente. We don't want to live in a desert planet. We want spaces, green areas with rivers and lakes because they are beautiful, and that's a value that we cannot forget. El agua tiene un valor, ya os digo, nos inspira, es bonito, nos gusta tener espacios verdes, nos gusta tener, no queremos que el mundo sea como un desierto. Queremos que haya agua de calidad con todos los seres vivos alrededor del agua. That is very important also. So the problem is that for all of these uses, we need fresh water. And we have seen that only 3% of that water, of the water of the planet, is fresh water. And most of that water is frozen in glaciers and at the poles. So just a little part of this water is available, and also is not well distributed. Not all the parts of the planet have the same quantity of fresh water with quality to being used. So that's a problem for human beings. Ancient civilizations, all civilizations have been developed around a source of water. Todas las grandes civilizaciones que ha habido a lo largo de la historia siempre han tenido que ocupar zonas donde hubiese agua potable, ¿no? Ríos, lagos, etc. So this is basically the amount of water we spend by sector. So in agriculture, we spend 70% of all the water we use, and 23% is industrial used. Municipal are the rest of the uses that represent about 7%. This is an example of the availability of water in the world. So the orange yellow areas are the places with more difficulties to get fresh water. So as you can see, areas, tropical areas close to this, or where there are deserts in these areas, the amount of water is very little. But some areas, they have a lot of water per person per year. Okay. And global warming and climate change is going to get things worse because the temperature is rising, there's more evaporation, the weather can change, and the deserts can, if the temperature goes up, the deserts can expand more, and this is the water stress by country that we think we can have in 2040 if this doesn't change. And as you can see, most of the Mediterranean areas can have problems with the water supply. Si el cambio climático sigue avanzando, si no se hace nada por cambiarlo, la temperatura del planeta puede aumentar y eso puede hacer que haya problemas de abastecimiento de agua, no en las áreas que ya tenían problemas, que evidentemente irán a peor, sino otros lugares, pues cerca, por ejemplo, de la latitud, de nuestra latitud, ¿no? Que podían tener problemas de abastecimiento de agua. So it's important to solve this problem. First of all, to fight against the climate change. Also, it's important to keep water and don't pollute water. ahorrar agua, save water, and also don't pollute water. To use the water, we cannot drink it straight from the reservoir. No podemos beber agua directamente de los pantanos o de los ríos. This is a water reservoir. You can see an image in your... This is the water. We cannot take it straight to the tap. No podemos beber el agua directamente del pantano. This is un grifo malamente dibujado. We cannot use it. We need to treat the water. To treat the water to make it potable. Para drinkable. Para hacer el agua bebible, para hacer el agua potable, necesitamos tratarla. Right? But also, after use this water, use it at home, in industries, and so on, we need to pick all of this water and treat it again to put it back to the nature, to the rivers. Después de usar el agua, todo este agua va a los ríos y antes de echarla a los ríos hay que depurarla, hay que volver a tratarla para devolverla limpia a la naturaleza. And to avoid contaminate the rivers and sea. Here we have 5 tips to save water. I think these are the main points summarized. So turn off the tap. Sometimes we use the tap water and we leave it running. So just turn on the tap if you are using it. Also use washing machine and dishwasher with full load to don't waste too much water. Also take a short shower and avoid to fill the bathtub. No tenemos que no hace falta llenar la bañera, podemos tomar una ducha que sea muy corta y podemos ahorrar agua. Also, place a bottle inside the toilet. That is a good trick. This is the toilet, right? So in the tank, in the water tank, we use a lot of water. But if we put inside a bottle, then there's less space, so the tank is not totally full, and we don't waste all the water. So this is a good trick to use less water every time we flush the toilet. What else? Water the plants when it's not very hot outside, especially during the early morning and late evening are the best moments to water the plants. Regar las plantas por la mañana, temprano o por la noche. And reuse water. This is another important thing. Okay, so this is all. I hope you like it. I hope this lesson was useful for you to remember the most important parts of the unit. If you have any doubts, you can ask me as always by email or Moodle, and I see you in the next lesson. Bye.